Author's point of view. The indistinct chatter and smell of sterile equipment lingered in the air as Jimin walked into the ICU ward. It was his usual morning round, during which he checked the patient's vitals and performed his duties as a doctor should. Park Jimin, one of the best general surgeons in Seoul, who has been working in Gangnam Severance Hospital for the last 7 years. He was a doctor due to his hard work, but he was also exceptionally skilled and believed he was blessed to have been given the opportunity to save lives and help others. Jimin, is Mrs. Kim up yet? Nurse Lee. Yes, Dr. Park. She is doing better than yesterday. Jimin just nodded as he entered the patient's room with Nurse Lee trailing behind him with her clipboard. The woman in her 60s, who was on the bed, smiled a little upon seeing Jimin. Mrs. Kim. Good morning, Dr. Park. Jimin. Morning, Mrs. Kim. How are you feeling? Any chest pain? Dizziness? He asked her as he checked her pulse, while Nurse Lee noted down everything on her clipboard. Mrs. Kim shook her head and answered his questions, her voice weak due to the heavy medicines. She had undergone surgery just yesterday. Mrs. Kim. No dizziness, doctor. Just my shoulder is stiff. Jimin. Give it some time. You will be fine. Just eat well and take medicine on time. He asked her a few more questions and then went toward the next patient. Soon enough, he was done with his round and walked out of the ward and was on his way to his cabin. Just then, a loud yell of his name startled him. Nurse. Dr. Park. A nurse was running toward him. It didn't take him a minute to comprehend the reason behind her agitated state. Jimin. Where is the patient? Nurse. Bullet shot. Operation Theatre 2. The nurse panted as she reached him. Nodding at her, Jimin bolted towards the stairs without a thought. Doctors had no second thoughts when it came to saving a life. It was an emergency case. He could hear the chaos as he neared the theatre. Taking a few breaths, he quickly put on the gown and mask while his fellow doctor explained the case to him. Dr. Min. It was a crime scene. The criminal lost it and a few cops were injured. They are being taken care of, but the one inside has a major wound. Shot in the abdomen, 2 inches below the heart. Another case of Officer Jung. Jimin paused at that. Officer Jung Wyan? She got shot? Again? Last year, she had walked in holding onto the bullet wound in her arm, and thankfully Jimin had seen her. She fell unconscious in his arms when he went to check up on her. He performed the surgery, but he couldn't stay to monitor her health as he had to fly to a conference the next day. When he returned, she had already been discharged. He didn't expect to meet her again, not like this, at least. Jimin forced his mind to focus, shaking off his thoughts. The nurses cleaned the blood and attended to Ryan, who was lying on the bed unconscious. Her face was pale and her body was exhausted. It must have been tough. Taking the instruments, Jimin started his work, and the atmosphere was serious as the surgery took place for more than an hour. Jimin, shift her into the ward and inform me when she gains consciousness, he ordered as he removed the gown, gloves and his mask. Walking out, he headed to his cabin to take a break. Jimin's point of view. I walked into the room to see it in full chaos. Three guys were playing cards, and another one was sitting in a chair listening to music. What the actual fuck? Are these guys really cops? Jimin, what the hell is going on here? I spoke sternly, glaring at each one of them, and they stood up straight, seeing me. My eyes fell on the patient who was now frozen in mid-bite of tteokbokki. Officer Chung Wayan. She glanced up at me and waved with an awkward smile. I stared at her in disbelief. Jimin, did you guys forget this is a hospital? Who would even believe you all are high-ranked officers? I scolded them and they just awkwardly shuffled in their places. I then crossed my arms and looked at Wayan. She gulped a bite and then cleared her throat. Wayan, sorry about that, Dr. Jimin. Please discharge me in a day or two. I'm fine. I need to go back on duty. I glared at her and I could see her gulping. Before I could speak, one of the cops spoke from behind me. Cop 1. Yes, Dr. Park. Mom has to come back on duty. She always catches the criminals without worrying about her own life. We spoke proudly and I turned to give them a sarcastic smile. Jimin, if the bullet had been pierced just 2 inches above, your mom wouldn't have a life to be worried about and do the duty. The rest of them glared at the cop, shaking their heads, and I turned my attention back on Vine. She was looking at me in disbelief. For what? Jimin, you are not getting any discharge until I say so. This is a hospital. I am the doctor and you are the patient. So you have to follow what I say. Why? I'm fine, Dr. Jimin. This isn't the first time I'm going through something like this. I'm a police officer. It's like a child's play for me. I stared at her for a few seconds. She was borderline glaring at me. What is up with this woman? Jimin, a child's play that nearly cost you your life, Miss Officer. Why? Excuse me? Did you just mock me, Doctor? Jimin, did I? She squinted her eyes at me and shrugged. Wayan, your tone definitely says so. Do you know how hard it is to be a cop? Jimin, I have witnessed it twice, so I'm aware. But I also heard cops are sharp-witted. She scoffed in disbelief. Wayan, did you just say I'm dumb? Jimin, I didn't. Maybe you know better. Anyway, take care. I'll come back again to check on you. Hopefully not to find any chaos again. I sighed at the cops present there who avoided meeting my eyes and turned around. Walking ahead, I stopped at the doorstep to throw a glance over my shoulder at the angry patient who was squinting her eyes at me like a chipmunk. Jimin, and make sure don't try any of your child's play in my hospital. People here fear life. With that, I walked away. The mumbled curses didn't go unnoticed by me. What a feisty, reckless cop. Ryan's point of view. I grumbled, fluttering my eyes open, squinting them when the bright sunlight hit my senses. I groaned as I stretched as much as I could in the small hospital bed. I scrunched my nose as the smell hit my senses. Sterile equipment, medical appliances, and the cold air. I hated hospitals. I sat up with the help of a nurse who was checking on me before I woke up. I smiled at her a little. I do hate hospitals, but staying here right now was a necessary evil. And it was all because of a certain black-haired, brown-eyed, handsome jerk of a doctor. How dare he scold a cop like that? Nurse Lee. Good morning, Officer Jung. How do you feel now? Ryan. A lot better. I'm fine. Can't I get discharged? I have to go back on duty. She just smiled, shaking her head, and before she could speak further, a strict, low voice cut in, making me scowl. Jimin, you are not going anywhere. I guess I was clear about it yesterday itself, Officer Ryan. He walked in, his lips twitching at the corners as he saw my pissed face. Jerk. Standing beside my bed, he raised his eyebrows at me, and the nurse bowed to him before walking out, perhaps to check other patients. Fine. Why can't I get discharged? I told you I'm completely fine. I have to go back on duty. Jimin. Well, good morning to you too. As far as I remember, you are a cop, right? I raised my eyebrow at him. Really now? Why? Yes, I'm a cop. But what does it have to do with this?
Jimin. So you must also know that a doctor is qualified to determine when a patient is fit or not, and nobody else is. I'm not going to repeat myself, so hear this for the last time. You are not getting a discharge until I say so. I am your doctor, and I will decide when you are fit to leave the hospital. So just take your medicine on time. Do what is told, like a good girl.
He leaned down with each word until I was lying flat on my bed. He wasn't too close, but I caught a whiff of faint cherry scent. Why was my heart pounding? His voice had turned stern with each sentence. I narrowed my eyes at him. Wine. Yes, you are my doctor, but it doesn't mean you can order me around like I'm a little girl. I'm a cop, if you are forgetting, Dr. Jimin. Jimin, you are too stubborn, officer. He stood straight, shaking his head, and I just rolled my eyes. Wine. Cry about it. I couldn't help the small smirk forming on my lips seeing his pissed face, which he composed just as quickly. Saying nothing, he checked me and I kept quiet this time, not having any more energy in the morning itself. Jimmy, have your breakfast. Nurse Lee will give you medicines after that. Okay? I just rolled my eyes. He crossed his arms. Jimin, I asked something, Officer Ryan. I glared at him. I wanted to defy him, but I couldn't do anything when his piercing brown eyes gazed back at me. His stare was intense. Ryan, okay, Dr. Jimin. I grumbled, and he nodded. His hand reached out to pat my head. Jimin, good girl. I guess he was surprised at his own action too, since he quickly withdrew his hand and left without saying anything. I touched my hair. Good girl? Ugh, snap out of it, Ryan. I patted my cheeks. Why the hell did they feel scorching hot? Ryan, won't medicine be enough, Nurse Lee? I told you I'm fine. I have been repeating this for 4 days now. I groaned, throwing my head back, and Nurse Lee just laughed, shaking her head. She's trying to give me an injection, which I don't want to take. Jimin, who is throwing a tantrum here now? He walked in with his ever so no nonsense expression, crisp white coat, and his stethoscope around his neck. I rolled my eyes as they met his gaze. He has literally annoyed me to hell and back for the last 4 days. But that didn't mean I backed down from getting on his nerves to give it back to him. Nurse Lee. Not a tantrum, Dr. Park. Officer Jung just won't take the injection. Jimin. And why is that so? Are you scared, officer? Because usually you always transform into Queen of Jhansi. I narrowed my eyes at him, seeing that faint, stupid smirk on his plump lips. How dare he? I scoffed and rolled up my sleeve and nodded to Nurse Lee. Why? Scared? Who? Me? Of a mere injection? Snap out of your dreams, Dr. Jimin. Amusement shone in his eyes as he stood on my other side while Nurse Lee came forward. My heart pounded seeing the needle, and I turned my face to the other side, shutting my eyes tightly. A hiss leapt from my lips as Nurse Lee injected me. A few seconds later, I felt warmth wrapped around my hand, and as I looked down, I quickly snatched my hand away from Jimin's grip. I had held his hand unconsciously, tight in fear. He tilted my chin up, and I saw a soft smile on his lips. How can a person be so annoying, yet his smile be like an angel? He wiped the tear at the corner of my eye and then patted my head while I just stared at him, equal parts embarrassed and equal parts shocked. Jimin, such a big baby. Miss Officer, we are doctors. We help patients to overcome their fears and be healthy. Jimin, no one was going to make fun of you if you had admitted you fear needles. You didn't, and I had to provoke you because the injection was necessary. Take care and eat on time as Nurse Lee instructs, like a good girl. He said nothing more and left. I touched my cheeks and they again felt hot. What's his obsession with calling me a good girl? I shook my head and lay down on the bed. The effect of the medicines had made me drowsy. Author's point of view. It's been a few days since Ryan's surgery, and Jimin strictly instructing her to stay in the hospital until he says she is fit to get discharged. That dynamic has been nothing short of entertaining for the rest of the staff and the patients in the hospital. He instructs her, she disobeys. He scolds her, and she behaves like a brat, not leaving a single chance to get on his nerves. She was such a handful, but surprised by himself, he didn't find her irritating at all. Instead, she amused him every single time. Flashback. Wine. But they taste bitter. Yuck. She made faces, shaking her head while Nurse Lee pleaded with her to take the medicines. Sighing at Wine's stubbornness, Nurse Lee called Jimin as he could only handle her tantrums. Since the moment he had denied her discharge, for which he was right, she has been hell-bent on being difficult to him as much as she can. Jimin, what happened now? He asked with a tired sigh as he walked into her room. He was tired from his night shift, and one particular cop won't let him have a few moments of peace until he lets her leave, even though she wasn't completely healed yet. Jimmy, Officer Ryan, you're a cop, not a 5-year-old. Stop throwing tantrums and take the medicine. You're giving us a hard time. He crossed his arms as he stood beside her bed. She wanted to protest, but seeing his glare and dark circles under his eyes, she quietly took the medicines, making faces at the bitter taste, and rolled her eyes at him. Jimin, you are one very stubborn woman, officer, and even more of a difficult patient to take care of. He sighed, but frowned confused when she gave him a smile which was anything but sweet as she pretended it to be. Wine. Is that so, Dr. Jimin? That's such a bad thing to say to your patient. What kind of doctor are you? If I am really that bad, discharge me, won't you? She battled her eyelashes at him. It was all mockery, but the strange flutter in the pit of Jimin's stomach didn't help him. He shook his head at her. Jimin, Miss Officer, you aren't going anywhere. So rest up like a good girl you are, hmm? He mockingly smiled back at her and walked out of the room, leaving her with flushed cheeks and a pounding heart, whose reason she didn't know.
Since then, something shifted, and with their daily arguments, a subtle teasing was involved. Underneath those eye rolls and mockery lay something softer, something both of them couldn't quite name, but they liked it. They thought they hid it well, but those around them saw everything clearly. Jimin didn't know why. After a tiring shift, he wanted to see her face and bicker with her at least once or more in a day. He didn't know why her expressions always managed to lift him. Wyan, on the other side, didn't know why his faint smiles managed to send a flutter straight through her heart. She didn't know why him calling her a good girl made her flush every time. Something was blooming between the doctor and the cop. Something sweet, something beautiful. Nurse Lee. Dr. Park! Officer Jung. Before she could even complete her sentence, Jimin stood up and bolted out of his cabin while Nurse Lee followed him, not surprised by his reaction. Jimin. What happened to Officer Wyan? The nurse who was helping Wyan sit on the bed flinched at his sudden entry into the room. He stood panting at the doorstep. Wyan hissed as the nurse made her lie on the bed, and Jimin immediately walked toward her, failing to hide the worry in his eyes. Nurse. I was nearby when I heard a yell from the washroom. Officer Jung had slipped on the floor. Thankfully, she didn't get any harm to the stitches, but her back hurts. Jimin nodded at the nurse, who bowed at him and walked out of the room, and he went toward Wyan to give her a medicine for the pain. Jimin. Was the fall bad? If the floor was wet, you should have been more careful. Wyan sighed, shaking her head. Wyan. I'm fine, Dr. Jimin. A bullet wound didn't hurt me that much. This was just a fall. She waved her hand while he glared at her, which made her gulp, because she had never seen him seriously angry. Jimin. Yeah, how can I forget? All this is a child's play to you, isn't it? You must be made of steel. I don't understand. You're a cop. You protect the people of this city. But why the fuck are you so reckless? Why so damn careless about your own life and your own health? Is it a joke to you? Do you have any idea how worried I was? He panted after he was done. Concern was evident in his tone, while Vian just stared at him with her jaw dropped. He shook his head, rubbing his face, and took a few breaths to calm himself down. He gave her the medicine silently, and after she was done taking it, he walked out of the room without a word. The next day, Vian's stitches were removed, and it was just a day until her discharge. She should be happy. She was dying to leave the hospital, but she wasn't. She hadn't seen Jimin after that incident. When she asked Nurse Lee, she got to know he was busy with another surgery that took place for long hours. She thought he was still angry at her, and she didn't want to leave the hospital until she made things right. She tried numerous times to talk to him, but Jimin was stuck in his duties, so she couldn't. Jimin's point of view. I groaned as I sank into my chair. The surgery was hectic, and my shift on top of that had snatched my sleep. I needed fresh air. A few moments later, I kept my coat and stethoscope aside and went to the hospital's terrace. I rubbed my arms as the cold wind blew past me. I took a deep breath and sighed as the fresh, cold air hit my senses, relaxing me immediately. Wine. Dr. Jimin? I turned at my side to see Wine staring at me, her expression that of a guilty child. Did she pull up another stunt or what? I raised my eyebrows at her. Jimin, what are you doing up here? Shouldn't you be resting? Why? I should, but I'm fine. And I'm getting a discharge tomorrow anyway. So you finally decided to let me go, huh? She crossed her arms beside me and I chuckled, looking ahead. Jimin, yeah, I did. You can finally go back to your duty now. Why? Yes, I can. By the way, Dr. Jimin, are you still angry with me? I looked at her, shaking my head. Jimin, I was worried, Officer Ryan, not angry with you. I guess I overreacted a little. She smiled with relief, but then mirth glinted in her eyes as she smiled teasingly at me. Why? So you worry about me, huh? She nudged my shoulder, and before I could speak, I felt a droplet on my hand. I looked up, and another droplet fell on my cheek. It started drizzling, and I took Wine's hand, immediately sprinting towards the shed on the terrace. In no time, it was pouring hard. I looked at Wine, who was looking at the rain with sparkling eyes. She looked at me with a mischievous smile, and I shook my head. Jimin, don't you dare. Yeah! Wine, you only live once. Dr. Jimin, come on. She giggled as she pulled me out of the shed, and I tried to resist but couldn't. We were soaked in seconds. I couldn't help the smile, seeing her giggling and enjoying the rain. I must be a fool. But who has ever won against the heart? My feet automatically dragged me toward her, and I wrapped my arm around her waist, yanking her against me. She gasped, and her cheeks turned scarlet in no time. I tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear and smiled, tilting her chin up. Jimin, the answer to your previous question? Yes, I worry about you, Jungwayan. So you better not be reckless about your health ever again, because you will be putting my heart at stake. Yeah? Wayan, at this rate, I might think you like me, Dr. Jimin. I leaned closer and whispered, Jimin, I do so, Officer Wayan. Will you go on a date with me? She pretended to swoon, and I laughed at her antics. Wine. I never knew you were such a romantic at heart. Yes, I'll go with you. She flinched as the thunder rang through the sky, and I pulled her closer by the waist. Her warmth seeped into me through her wet clothes, making me shiver. My gaze fell on her lips, and I couldn't help but lean closer. She closed her eyes and wrapped her hands around my neck. A shudder ran down my spine as my lips brushed against hers. I kissed her, and the raindrops on those soft petals only felt thrilling. Bodies sticking to each other, breaths mixed, and hearts pounding. I panted after the tantalizing kiss and rested my forehead against hers. Jimin, this is the best kiss I have ever had. Wet hair, flushed cheeks, swollen lips, and a shy smile. My heart soared seeing her. She nodded, looking up. Wine. Me too. I think I'm addicted to your lips. Has anyone ever mentioned you have damn sexy lips? The tip of my ears burned, and before I could answer, she held my collar, pulling me into another toe-curling, intense lip lock. I smiled as I tilted my head and kissed her back. Officer Jung Wyan, you officially stole my heart.